back to Q&A Anime. You're here with Kadir and Akil, and today we're discussing a first look at Sakugan Episode 1.
Yes, sir. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications and updates. And without further ado, let's get into it.
All right, so initial thoughts. I kind of put you onto this anime, Akil. You tell me what you think.
Listen, you definitely did. I had never even heard of it until you sent it to me. But it's definitely one I think I'm going to be binging from now on. It's super interesting. I love the vibes overall. I know we're gonna talk about more later, so I'm not trying to get too in depth. But seems like it has a really interesting story, interesting world too, and I'm excited to see where it's gonna go.
Yes. So I guess let me give a quick intro to those of you that don't know what Sakugan is and would like to get into it. Basically, humanity lives underground, and over the years, the surface has become a distant memory, and so humanity survives underground, and they have these workers who mine like ores and fuels and colonies called markers, and they go into the labyrinth and bring back information and resources. Also, they have to deal with these things called kaiju. You guys might know the most famous kaiju being Godzilla, and so there's different sizes of kaiju. Obviously, the first episode you get to see how dangerous they are, and the main character is actually a girl, a 9-year-old girl at that, which is atypical, I think, of most like shonen anime. Wouldn't you say, Akil?
Yeah, absolutely. Because definitely shonen, if it follows a young character, they're almost always a young boy. But in this case, it's a young girl.
And given she's kind of working with her dad, but there's still that fact that she's definitely like the focus of the anime. So it's cool that we have a female lead. So basically she's dreaming about this place on the surface, and despite her father wanting to keep her safe, not wanting his little girl to grow up, things obviously get more adventurous, and we're gonna start the agenda from there.
All right. So it's the world. So I'll start with the world. It's pretty interesting. The underworld is what they call their society. That's just underground, and they say that light never reaches there.
Yeah. Which
as an idea of like humankind being kind of pushed underground and living these underground colonies reminded me a bit of Gurren Lagann. But this one was a bit different because their underground colonies were full of like cities with like full buildings and trains. And some of the technology they had seems very similar to things that we have in our society today.
Are you saying that Gurren Lagann had the advanced?
Oh no! Gurren Lagann didn't have the advanced technology at all. I'm talking about Sakugan,
right,
and how it had this advanced technology, which was surprising when I first imagined that humanity had been forced underground. I definitely didn't expect to see a city that resembled a modern day city so well.
Right.
But one thing that they do have is a big difference is that in Sakugan's world, the only giant mechs that we've seen so far are like used by humans to either explore the labyrinth or mine the ores. Yeah,
and I guess also take down kaiju in the case of the first episode.
Or try to take down kaiju.
Yeah.
But yeah, the labyrinth is apparently full of kaiju, which in and of themselves is already dangerous enough, but apparently also has cave-ins, floods, and hella other dangers. I think terrorists were mentioned at one point, and they talk about how like most of the environment is inhospitable and like hazardous to humans. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's cool that they have all these different colonies too. I wonder which societies are peaceful and which ones aren't.
Oh yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I always assumed that all the colonies, if they were known of, would be rather lawful places, but it's entirely possible that some of them could be like almost like lawless Wild West outlaw type towns.
Yeah, might run into Vash the Stampede underground. So I guess we can get into some of the characters here. So we have Memempu, who's the main character, 9-year-old girl, child prodigy.
Yeah. Child prodigy, already finished college at 9 years old.
Yes. Who's
and not to mention,
sorry, continue.
Oh, I was gonna say, not to mention that she makes incredible inventions, apparently. the sensor that they were using in the mine that locates the ore perfectly, the trap that her father got caught in at the beginning of the anime.
Yeah.
And it seems as though there are a couple other things that she's made that are incredibly high tech. So her intellect is no joke.
I definitely want to see her in a chess match against Child Emperor from One Punch Man.
Oh.
For those of you that don't know, Child Emperor is kind of the same. He's a child prodigal genius and uses his inventions to kill monsters. And he's S ranked. So, he's not with the bullshit. And so, I guess getting more into Memempu, she has a recurring dream about a place in the labyrinth, as I kind of mentioned earlier. And you want to go into a bit about that place, Akil?
Yeah, from what we can see, we see a drawing that she made of it. It seems to have a tower, and it looks as though there are shooting stars going by in the background, and there's like a field full of flowers. Yeah. And she talks about how like it's just like she's been having this dream constantly, and she like knows it's a real place, and that's part of why she wants to become a marker and explore the labyrinth, is so that she can find this place from her dreams that she just feels as though like she's destined to be there at.
But it seems like her father, Gaganber, wants to stop her from realizing her full potential.
As we mentioned before, is one of the workers who mines the ore in the caves, and he does that together with Memempu, and they make quite the team, even though they argue quite a lot.
Yeah.
But, he also seems to have a mysterious past. When he was talking with Walsh, one of the characters we're going to get into later, it's made it seem as though he was possibly a marker at one point in the past, but then maybe something traumatic happened to someone he knew, and he like blames himself or felt guilty about it and gave up that life.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that is where his opposition of Memempu becoming a marker comes from.
Which only makes sense because, something traumatic like that happening will only make you oppose wanting someone you love to become that same thing.
Yeah, it's knowing the danger that comes along with it. And before we get into other characters, I do want to talk about how this show threw me for a loop at first, because when it first started off, it showed Memempu running through like the dark streets, and we see Gagamber following her, and it kind of flashes that he has a gun like in the back of his waistline, and I'm thinking that she's in danger, like someone's trying to hunt her and kill her, and then they get caught in each other's traps, and they like sling off insults at each other and talk about how every day she tries to get to where the markers are so she can go out, and every day they stop each other and get caught in traps.
Yeah. You thought Memempu was about to get capped on the first episode, huh?
Yeah, I was like, wow. I'm like dropping right into the action. But I still liked it, even though it kind of got me a bit.
Yeah, I like their dynamic. It's pretty funny. I'm thinking that it's going to be a atypical kind of anime. Like, I haven't seen past the first episode, just so we could record this and I wouldn't spoil anything by accident. But I was wondering if the dynamic would be like just those two, or if they're gonna have like a third character, because most shonen anime follow the trope of having like a trio of characters.
Yeah, that's true.
So I wonder who that third character would be.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe in the next episode they might end up meeting them.
Yeah,
I don't know either. I also haven't started binging it yet, because I was like, want to make sure I'm only focused on the first episode for this review.
Yeah, and I guess we could talk about the next couple characters, Linda and Walsh. So Linda is a marker, friends with Gagamber and Memempu, and Linda happens to be Walsh's daughter.
Yes, and so we have another like father-daughter duo that we kind of see, but Linda and Memempu are really close, and she does seem as though she's rooting for Memempu to eventually become a marker.
Right.
I'm a bit more interested in what the contrast, I guess, between Gagamber and Walsh. They almost seem like foils of one another. Like, one's a worker, one's a marker. They both share the fact that they're fathers, but like Walsh is loved by everyone, whereas Gagamber, it seems as though he's rather indifferent. I do know that it seems as though like the workers who like mine are looked down upon in society more than other people.
Yeah, that makes sense. because they're not
And
out in the
so,
battlefield or not bringing resources or not mapping out the labyrinth, I guess. And
so
I wanted to mention that Memempu kind of sees Linda as like an older sister.
yes, she does. They definitely are incredibly close and
Yeah.
have that family bond.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, Memempu kind of wants to follow in her footsteps with becoming a marker.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder who, if the end of the episode didn't occur, I wonder who Memempu would have been a marker with, you know? Because it seemed like the person she becomes a marker with wouldn't want to had the kaiju not break in and attack the colony.
I get what you're saying, like, because they partner up. Like Linda and Walsh work together in one marker bot.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, and so she would have to be paired up with someone.
Yeah. And for those of you that...
Maybe regardless, Gagamber would have ended up joining her just to keep an eye on her and keep her safe.
Probably. And for those of you that don't want any spoilers for the ending, we're about to get into the juicy parts. So I guess one thing we want to talk about now is the last character of importance, who is Uroro.
Yeah, Uroro, or something like that. Uroro.
They've got some interesting names in this anime.
Yeah, they do. But Uroro is a legendary marker who is said to have gone across the whole labyrinth and made a map of the entire thing. And although some people seem to believe it and like strive to be like Uroro, most people kind of consider it just an old rumor and don't really take too much stock in it.
Yeah, I feel like everybody thought that it was fake until, Memempu finds this map.
Yes,
finds
that's
this picture,
in a small crystal.
Yeah, in a crystal of all things. Like, how do you think that even occurred?
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember that when Gagamber was holding it, he said it was like an intricate engraving. So it seems as though like maybe Uroro engraved the map inside the gem, so that when light was held up to it, it would make the map symbol.
I definitely agree.
But I'm definitely more interested in the picture that was left behind with the map, because it's a picture of the exact place that Memempu had been seeing in her dreams over and over again.
Right.
And so it just leads to the question of like, what exactly is the connection between Memempu and Aurora? Are they perhaps like related by blood? I know that the mom is absent, but it said that she left, not that she's dead. So I wonder if maybe Aurora is the mother.
That's what my prediction was.
Yeah, or maybe it's something completely different.
I feel like Uroro is the mother, and she abandoned Gagamber and Memempu in search of trying to better the colony for humanity and map out the rest of the labyrinth for them.
Okay.
And maybe pull them to the surface. And that's why Gagamber doesn't want Memempu to become a marker, because he thinks that Uroro died, and he doesn't want the same fate for Memempu, obviously. Or Uroro just like up and left, and he doesn't want that either, because he doesn't want to be alone, obviously.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's why he's gonna see to it that she doesn't become one. But spoiler alert, and if you don't want to know what happens in the rest of the video, this is your time to cut out now. Spoiler alert, they end up being attacked by kaiju, and you want to get into this last part, Akil?
Yeah. So, first of all, when the kaiju came in, this thing was massive. I know that I remember it said that like they can range inside from like a small child to an enormous building.
Yeah.
But the one that busted through was definitely an enormous building size, because it was towering over most of the buildings in the colony, and it was busting through everything in its path. And right as things are about to go a little crazy, we see Memempu and Gagamber and Linda get like cornered. Walsh and some other markers show up, and they're kind of looks like they're holding the kaiju at bay a little bit. They wrapped up its arms, and Walsh picks up Linda, and there was this actually really like cool moment where Memempu wanted to come with, and Linda like yelled at her to like stay back, that she's just a kid. And like I saw in that moment that like Memempu was hurt, because especially because she said like, aren't we a team? Because like I understand that like even though Linda and Mempu had that sisterly bond and she does want her to become a marker, she knew that it was far too dangerous of a time to let Mempu like come along.
Yeah.
And so she said something mean, and even though she knew it was mean simply because she knew that it was for the best. And then right after, as their mech's moving off, the kaiju just smashes into them, and they're dead.
Well, this was a different kaiju that jumped in.
Oh, it wasn't the same one as the first one. I remember another one showed up, but I didn't realize that this was the second. Yeah, I guess the second kaiju shows up and punches the out of them. Like, they are gone. It was so quick, too. Like, I didn't expect them to survive the kaiju fight, but I thought they were going to fight a little longer, you know? I didn't expect it to end so quick. Like,
yeah,
boom.
They finished off main characters, like, at Attack on Titan speed. Like, first episode just honestly wiped out.
Oh, man, it was crazy.
And then, with that happening, it kind of sprung Gagamber and Memempu into action, and then you find out that Gagamber has his own mech.
Yeah, it looks different from all the other ones that we've seen, so it may be like a personal one that he's customized himself.
It makes me think that our thoughts of Gagamber possibly being a marker in his past are cemented. Like, that was 100% the case. And he had this hidden for reasons unknown. Our guess is, or at least mine.
Maybe I was gonna say maybe it was his old one and he's just been like keeping it in shape since then.
Yeah. My assumption is that he retired it because it had something to do with either Europe or some other person important to him that died as a marker.
Yeah, I remember they mentioned, Walsh mentioned a name, but I don't remember who it was that he mentioned.
I think that Walsh and Gagamber's histories go further back than we know.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point that they were possibly partners. I could see that. What about you?
I could definitely, maybe not partners, but I think they were definitely on the same team.
Right.
No, because like the markers definitely go in groups, so maybe they were part of the same unit or battalion, whatever classification it would be. Yeah. And so maybe we'll get a little more backstory as the show goes on from Gagamber himself. But
question: can the mechs be piloted solo? Did we see any of the mechs being piloted solo?
Yes, when Walsh protected them, he was the only one in his mech because he picked up Linda and then she got in. So it looks as though one person can operate the mech, but maybe it's better and like you can work more weapons or more efficiently with two people.
That makes sense.
But in terms of predictions I have for this series, I only really have like one big one since the whole Gagamber being a marker is like seems like it's pretty much cemented at this point.
Yeah.
And it's that whatever the glowing point on that map is not the labyrinth. It's not the thing that's in the picture or the thing from Memempu's dream.
What do you think it is?
I'm not sure, but I definitely feel like it might end up being something else. You know, like they finally get there, and then it ends up like revealing like an even bigger, like more history on like what exactly forced humans into these underground histories of the labyrinth. Maybe more history of the labyrinth itself or something. But I don't think it's going to end up being the tower.
Yeah, I like that this anime seems like it's going to have a meta-narrative where it's obviously the main point of the anime is for Memempu to find that place in her dream. But there's also going to be the backstory behind the labyrinth, how humanity got underground in the first place, and the history on like the kaiju, the multiple colonies, all that stuff. And do you have anything else that you wanted to add? Oh, there was something else that I wanted to add, actually. So, the anime is visually stunning. Like, I think this anime is beautiful. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, me too. I definitely like the colors, especially in Memempu's hair. It's just like a very vibrant, almost neonish, but like not overly so. Like, not so bright that it's like sickening, but just like a very pleasing color. And I do especially like the designs I see of not just of the people, but of like the mechs and the kaiju and the technology. And I enjoy that it has like this like almost like I don't want to. It seems weird to call it that, but like friendly, silly tone. Despite the fact that Linda and Walsh got killed, especially because like that was the one jarring moment in this anime that it seemed like. Oh, at the start, it kind of almost got me a sec when I thought Gagamber was someone trying to hurt Memempu. But then I saw their dynamic and it was fun, and it was like, oh yeah, we see like the father-daughter arguing, but like everything was almost wholesome and safe. And then that one big moment where like everything changes, and then we see like the people they care about get killed. And even the emotional moment between Memempu and Gagamber after that, where Memempu's like, she's like, I think something's wrong with me, because even though like I just saw them die and I understand now why you don't want me to, because I understand how bad it hurts when you lose someone, she's like, I still want to like go find that place and follow this map.
Yeah.
And when Gagamber's like, he's like, I must be a terrible dad because I don't understand, or maybe because if I wasn't, then I could understand what the heck it meant to be a dad. Because when he was talking with Walsh was saying that like, when the time comes and you gotta let your kid go, like all you just gotta let them go with just your trust. And he's like, just let you go with just my trust and nothing else. He's like, how can I do that? Like you're still my little kid. Like I could never just let you go with just my trust alone. So he's like, if you really want to do this, he's like, I'm gonna come along with you as long as it takes, no matter what it takes.
Right.
And yeah.
Really heartfelt stuff. And I think that's definitely going to be one of the selling points for this anime, how it has a lot of like emotional stuff you got to process in the father-daughter relationship. And I mean, you know that danger's out there because really good father-daughter duo just got destroyed in like a second. Like they didn't even know what happened when they died. And I guess that about wraps up our first look at Sakugan, and we'll continue watching, and then we'll deliver our full first look on the first arc, and we'll see where the story heads from there.
All right, yeah.
So with that, Q&A out.
Q&A out.